The great crystal station hung in space like a giant diamond, catching the light from 3 different suns. Inside its massive halls, beings from across the galaxy gathered for the most important meeting in centuries. The Galactic Council was in emergency session, and the reason was both simple and shocking. The humans were gone. Ambassador Zekthar stood at the center of the chamber, his green scales gleaming under the bright lights. He was tall and lean with yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. Behind him, a huge holographic display showed star maps and empty worlds. His forked tongue flicked out as he spoke, tasting the fear and excitement in the air. "Honored council members," he began, his voice smooth as silk but sharp as a blade. "The matter before us today is unprecedented. The human species has simply vanished from the galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Hive Queen Zack clicked her mandibles together, the sound echoing off the crystal walls. Her compound eyes, each one the size of a dinner plate, focused on the display. She spoke in the clicking, buzzing language of her people, which the translators quickly converted to standard galactic speech. "Explain this vanishing," she demanded. "Species do not simply disappear." Zekthar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Ah, but they do, watch." He gestured to the display and the images changed. World after world appeared, each one showing the same thing. Empty cities, silent spaceports, abandoned farms and factories. "Earth," he said, pointing to the blue-green world that had once been humanity's home. "Population readings show less than 1% of previous levels. The few life signs we detect appear to be automated systems, nothing more." The display shifted again. Kepler 442b, their largest mining colony. Empty. New Geneva, their diplomatic center. Empty. Mars, their first terraformed world. Empty. Each image showed the same story. Buildings stood intact, but no people moved through their streets. Chairman Veltar floated forward in his environmental suit. The gaseous being inside was invisible, but his voice came through clearly. "This is most unusual." "What of their ships? Their military forces?" "Drifting in space," Zekthar replied. "We have detected several dozen human vessels, all appearing to be abandoned. No power signatures, no life support, no crew. It is as if they simply walked away from everything they had built." Ambassador Reflon's aquatic chamber bubbled as he spoke. The fish-like being swam in tight circles, his fins moving rapidly. "There must be an explanation. Wars leave traces, plagues leave bodies, natural disasters leave damage. But this is clean. Too clean." Zekthar's smile grew wider. "That is exactly the point, my aquatic friend. The humans have done what we always knew they would eventually do. They have accepted their place in the galaxy. They have realized that they are not meant to compete with superior species such as ourselves." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates seemed pleased by this news. Others appeared worried. The humans had been a problem for decades. They were too primitive to be respected, but too stubborn to be controlled. They had refused to accept the Council's authority, insisting on their independence. They had rejected offers to become client species to more advanced races. Most annoying of all, they had continued to develop new technologies at an alarming rate. But now, it seemed they had finally given up. "I propose," Zekthar continued, "that we declare all former human territories to be abandoned space. This would allow us to redistribute these valuable worlds among the more deserving species of the galaxy." The Hive Queen, Zack's antennae twitched. "What of investigation? Should we not determine what caused this exodus?" Zekthar waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Why waste resources on a species that has shown such weakness? The humans have solved our problem for us. Let us not look this gift in the mouth, as they say." But not everyone was convinced. Commander Thak of the Ursine Federation, a massive bear-like creature covered in silver fur, growled his displeasure. "This feels wrong. Humans do not run from fights. They run toward them. Something else is happening here." "Fear makes all species act against their nature," Zekthar replied smoothly. The humans finally realized they were swimming in waters too deep for them. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted immediate investigation. Others wanted to send occupation forces to claim the empty worlds. A few suggested caution, remembering how unpredictable humans could be. In the end, Zekthar's faction won. The vote was close but clear. Human space would be declared abandoned. The worlds would be redistributed within 6 months. No resources would be wasted on investigation. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Most felt satisfied with the decision. The human problem had solved itself. The galaxy could return to its natural order, with the advanced species ruling over the primitive ones. But if they had looked more carefully at their sensor data, they might have noticed something troubling. At the very edge of their detection range, faint energy signatures moved through the darkness. They appeared for moments, then vanished. They followed no known travel routes and matched no known ship designs. These signatures had been present during the entire council session, watching and listening. But the council's instruments were calibrated to detect the massive energy outputs of their own ships. They were not designed to notice something that was actively trying to remain hidden. Deep in space, Captain Maria Santos watched the council station through the sensors of her stealth ship. Around her, the bridge was dark and quiet. Her crew moved with practiced efficiency, their faces grim with concentration. "Did you get all of it?" she asked her communications officer. "Every word, Captain. The whole session was recorded." Santos nodded. "Send it to command. Let them know the council has taken the bait." She turned to look out at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were waiting. They had left their homes willingly, following a plan that had taken years to prepare. The council thought they had run away in fear. They could not have been more wrong. The humans had not disappeared. They had gone underground. And while the galaxy's leaders celebrated their victory, humanity was preparing for something that would change the balance of power forever. "Set course for Rally Point 7, Santos ordered. "It's time to go home." As her ship slipped silently into hyperspace, the council station continued its orbit, unaware that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity exactly what they needed: time, space, and the element of surprise. The galaxy would soon learn what happened when you mistook human patience for human weakness, but that lesson was still months away. For now, the council celebrated their bloodless victory, dividing up worlds they had never earned among species who had never fought for them. They made plans and drew maps and argued over the finest details of their new territories. None of them noticed that in the darkness between stars, something was watching them back. 3 months had passed since the council declared human space abandoned. The first scavenger fleets were already moving into the empty territories, eager to claim whatever the humans had left behind. Captain Krexivol commanded one of these fleets, a collection of Sauridian salvage ships that looked more like metal vultures than proper vessels. The captain stood on his bridge, watching the planet grow larger on the main screen. Kepler 442b had been one of humanity's most successful mining worlds. The automated systems were still running, which meant the valuable deep-core extractors were probably intact. His crew could strip this place clean in a few weeks and make enough profit to buy their own moon. "Beginning orbital scan," reported his sensor operator, a younger Sauridian named Yix. Her scales were bright green, marking her as recently molted and eager to prove herself. "I'm reading multiple settlements on the surface. All appear abandoned, just as the council reported." Krexvol nodded with satisfaction. His yellow eyes gleamed as he imagined the treasure waiting below. Humans were primitive, but they built solid equipment. Their mining gear would fetch excellent prices on the black market. "Take us down to the largest settlement," he ordered, "and keep the sensors active. I want to know if so much as a maintenance robot is still functioning." The ship descended through the planet's thin atmosphere, passing over empty cities and silent industrial complexes. Everything looked normal from the air. The buildings were intact, the roads were clear, and the power grid was still running. But there were no people. No vehicles moved through the streets. No ships sat in the spaceports. They landed near the main mining facility, a massive complex that stretched for kilometers underground. Krexivol led the landing party personally, along with his chief engineer Thok and a dozen security troops. As they walked through the empty corridors, their footsteps echoed strangely in the silence. "This is too clean," muttered Thok, running his scanner over the walls. The engineer was older than the others, his scales dulled with age and experience. "Where are the bodies? Where are the signs of struggle? Maybe they had time to clean up before they left," suggested Yix, though she didn't sound convinced. They reached the main control center, a vast room filled with monitoring equipment and computer terminals. The screen still showed data flowing in from the deep mines. Production numbers, safety readings, equipment status reports. Everything was functioning normally except for one small detail. There were no people to operate any of it. Krexval moved to the central console and began accessing the computer systems. His claws clicked against the keys as he searched through the data files. What he found made his blood run cold. The evacuation records, he said slowly. They show a systematic withdrawal over several months. Not a panicked exodus, but a carefully planned operation. Thok looked up from his own scanner. Captain, you need to see this. The mining equipment, it's not just offline. It's been stripped. Every quantum processor, every advanced component, even the backup power cells. They took everything valuable and left only the basic infrastructure. The security chief, a scarred veteran named Grok, pointed to the walls. Look at these access panels. They've been opened and resealed recently. Professional work, not rushed. As they explored deeper into the facility, the pattern became clearer. The humans hadn't simply abandoned this place. They had methodically dismantled it, taking anything of real value while leaving behind an empty shell. It was like finding a perfectly intact building with all the furniture removed. But it was Thok who made the discovery that would haunt them all. In the deepest maintenance tunnels far below the main complex, he found something that shouldn't exist. Blast marks on the walls. Recent blast marks. Captain. His voice crackled over the comm system. You need to get down here. Level 15, Section C. Bring the portable scanners. When Krexval reached the lower levels, he found Thok standing before a wall of twisted metal and fused rock. It was clearly the result of controlled explosions, but the pattern was strange. Instead of random destruction, the blast had sealed off a series of tunnels that led even deeper underground. They collapsed their own mine shafts, Thok explained, his voice tight with worry. But look at this, he pointed to the blast pattern. This wasn't about hiding evidence. The explosions were shaped to create a specific pattern. See how the sealed sections connect? Krexval studied the scanner readouts. The collapsed tunnels formed a geometric design that hurt his eyes to look at directly. It was too regular to be random, too complex to be simple destruction. What kind of pattern is this? He asked. I don't know, Thok admitted. But it's not the only one. I've been monitoring the scanner feeds from the other salvage teams. Every human facility we've entered shows the same thing. Controlled demolitions creating geometric patterns in the underground sections. Over the next several days, reports flooded in from across human space. Every world, every station, every outpost showed identical signs. The humans had stripped away their valuable technology with surgical precision. They had sealed off underground areas with carefully planned explosions, and in every case, the sealed sections formed parts of larger geometric patterns. Captain Krexval stood in his ship's briefing room, staring at a holographic display that showed the accumulated data from dozens of worlds. When connected, the sealed tunnel systems formed a network that spanned multiple star systems. The pattern was so large that no single team had noticed it until now. What were they building? Whispered Yix, her young eyes wide with fear. I don't think they were building anything, Krexval replied slowly. I think they were preparing something. The chief engineer nodded grimly. Captain, I've run the calculations. To coordinate demolitions across this many worlds with this level of precision would require planning on a massive scale. Years of preparation, thousands of people working in perfect synchronization. But why? Grok demanded. What's the point of all this? Krexval turned away from the display, his mind racing. The humans had never been as primitive as the Council claimed. Their technology was different, but not necessarily inferior. Their thinking was alien to most galactic species, but that didn't make it wrong. Send a priority message to the Council, he ordered. Include all our scanner data and observations. Tell them we need immediate investigation of these patterns. Sir, Yix said hesitantly. What should we tell them we found? Krexval looked back at the holographic network of sealed tunnels and hidden passages that stretched across a dozen star systems. It looked like a circuit diagram, or a summoning circle, or something else entirely that his reptilian mind couldn't grasp. Tell them, he said quietly, that the humans didn't disappear. They went underground, and whatever they're doing down there, it's big enough to involve their entire species. As the message raced toward the Council station, Captain Krexval ordered his fleet to withdraw from human space. His profit-seeking mission had turned into something much more dangerous. The humans hadn't left treasure behind for scavengers to find. They had left clues for anyone smart enough to read them, and the message those clues spelled out was simple. We are still here. We are still watching. And we are not finished yet. In the depths of space, other ships received Krexvol's transmission, ships that had been observing the scavenger fleet since they first entered human territory, ships that belonged to people who were very much alive, very much organized, and very much aware of everything happening in their former homes. The Watchers had been watched. The Hunters had become the hunted. And the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their weapons. It had always been their patience. The council chamber felt different this time. The air was thick with tension, and even the crystal walls seemed to dim as Ambassador Zekthar took his place at the center of the room. 6 months had passed since humanity's disappearance, and what should have been a time of celebration had turned into something else entirely. Honored members, Zekthar began, but his usual confidence was missing. His scales had lost some of their shine, and his yellow eyes darted nervously toward the shadows at the edge of the chamber. We have received disturbing reports from our salvage operations in former human space. The holographic display activated, showing not the empty worlds they expected, but something far more troubling. Sensor readings filled the air above them, lines of data that told a story none of them wanted to hear. Chairman Veltar's gaseous form rippled with agitation. Explain these readings, Ambassador. Our instruments show movement where there should be none. Zekthar gestured to the display, and the data shifted to show grainy images captured by long-range sensors. Shapes moved through the darkness between stars, but they were unlike anything in the Council's databases. Sleek and angular, they seemed to bend light around themselves, appearing for moments before vanishing again. These contacts have been detected throughout human space, Zekthar reported. They appear on our sensors for brief periods, then disappear completely. Our analysts believe they are ships, but of a design we do not recognize. The Hive Queen Zack's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among her species. How many ships? What are their capabilities? Unknown, Zekthar admitted, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. Our estimates range from hundreds to tens of thousands. They appear to be using some form of advanced stealth technology that renders our standard sensors nearly useless. Ambassador Reflon's aquatic chamber bubbled frantically as he swam in tight circles. This contradicts everything we believed about human technology. They were primitive, barely spacefaring. How could they develop such advanced stealth capabilities? Perhaps, suggested Commander Thak of the Ursine Federation, his massive form leaning forward. We were wrong about their technological level. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. The idea that the Council could have been so fundamentally mistaken about an entire species was almost too terrible to consider. For generations, they had based their policies on the assumption of their own superiority. Zekthar cleared his throat, drawing attention back to the display. There is more. Captain Krexvol's report from the mining world of Kepler 442b describes systematic demolitions throughout human underground facilities. The pattern of these demolitions, when viewed across multiple worlds, forms a geometric network of enormous complexity. The display shifted again, showing the interconnected pattern of sealed tunnels and collapsed sections that stretched across dozens of star systems. The design was beautiful in its precision, terrifying in its scope. Our xenoarchaeologists have analyzed this pattern, Zekthar continued. Their preliminary conclusion is that it represents some form of summoning circle, or perhaps a massive ritual diagram. The humans appear to have converted their entire civilization into a single, galaxy-spanning construction. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions and accusations. The translators worked frantically to keep up with a dozen different languages all being spoken at once. Through it all, the geometric pattern continued to rotate slowly above their heads, its alien mathematics mocking their confusion. Order! Chairman Veltar's voice boomed through the chamber, his environmental suit speakers amplified to maximum volume. We will have order. Gradually, the noise subsided, but the fear remained, thick and palpable in the recycled air. What do our border patrols report? Asked the delegate from the Christek Confederacy, her silicon-based form glittering nervously. Zekthar consulted his datapad. Consistent sightings of unidentified vessels near the border between human space and Council territory. These ships appear to be conducting reconnaissance missions, observing our patrol routes and defensive positions. Reconnaissance for what? Demanded Reflon. We believe, Zekthar said slowly, that the humans are studying us, learning our weaknesses, preparing for something. The implications of this statement hit the council like a physical blow. For months they had believed themselves to be the hunters, moving into abandoned territory to claim easy prizes. Now it appeared they had been the prey all along, observed and catalogued by an enemy they couldn't see. "What of our intelligence networks?" asked the Hive Queen. "Surely our spies in human space have gathered information." Zekthar's expression grew even more grim. "We have lost contact with all our intelligence assets in human territory. Every spy, every informant, every monitoring station has gone silent. It is as if they simply disappeared." The chamber fell into a heavy silence. Outside the crystal walls, the stars continued their eternal dance, but they no longer seemed friendly. In the darkness between them, things moved that the council did not understand. "There is one more thing," Zekthar said quietly. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual energy readings from the direction of Earth. Massive power signatures that dwarf anything we have seen before. Whatever the humans are building, it requires enormous amounts of energy." He paused, gathering courage for what he had to say next. "Our scientists estimate that the power output we are detecting is equivalent to the total energy consumption of a major council world. But it is coming from a single location." The display shifted one final time, showing a long-range scan of the Sol system. Where Earth should have been, there was something else. The planet was still there, but it was surrounded by structures so massive they were visible from interstellar distances. Orbital platforms that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Industrial complexes that could house entire fleets. And around it all, moving in perfect formation, were ships. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. They moved with a precision that spoke of advanced coordination, following patterns too complex for the Council's computers to track. "How long?" asked Chairman Veltar, his voice barely a whisper. "How long what, Chairman? How long have they been building this?" Zekthar checked his calculations one more time, hoping he had made an error. He had not. Based on the scale of construction and allowing for human industrial capabilities, at least 20 years, possibly longer. The truth settled over the council like a shroud. While they had been congratulating themselves on their superiority, humanity had been building in secret. While they had dismissed human technology as primitive, humans had been developing capabilities that made council science look primitive by comparison. "What do we do?" asked the Christek delegate. It was Commander Thak who answered, his gruff voice cutting through the fear. "We prepare for war, because that is what this is, whether we want to admit it or not. The humans have been preparing for war for decades, but why?" cried Riflon. "What do they want from us?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The chamber's communication system crackled to life and a new voice filled the air. It was human, female, calm. "Greetings, Council," the voice said. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force. I believe you have been wondering about our whereabouts." Every delegate in the chamber froze. Security alarms should have been screaming. The station's defenses should have activated. But somehow, impossibly, a human voice was speaking directly into their most secure meeting room. "You thought we disappeared," Admiral Chen continued. "You were wrong. We evolved, and now we would like to have a conversation about the future of this galaxy." The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. Outside their crystal walls, the stars no longer seemed empty. They were full of watching eyes and hidden ships and a species that had just announced its return to galactic affairs. The age of council dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the Prometheus Rising, her reflection ghost-like in the transparent metal that separated her from the infinite darkness. Around her, the greatest fleet in human history drifted silently through the void between galaxies, hidden in the cosmic emptiness where no council sensor could reach. She was not the same woman who had served as a junior officer when the council first dismissed humanity as primitive. 20 years of preparation had changed her, just as it had changed her entire species. Her hair was silver now, her face marked by the weight of decisions that would reshape the galaxy. Behind her eyes lay knowledge that would terrify the council if they understood it. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of absolute conviction. Commander Marcus Torres approached from the tactical station, his footsteps silent on the ship's deck. The bridge around them was a marvel of technology that the Council would not recognize. Organic curves flowed seamlessly into crystalline computing matrices. Holographic displays showed information in patterns that seemed to shift and breathe. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Torres said. "Final count is 207,000 vessels, ranging from stealth corvettes to the new Titan-class dreadnoughts. Every human colony, every mining station, every research outpost contributed to the construction." Chen nodded slowly. It had been the greatest mobilization in galactic history, and no one had noticed. While the Council observed humanity's surface activities with casual interest, the real work had been happening in the spaces between spaces, in asteroid fields, in the dark matter shadows, in dimensions that most species couldn't even perceive. "Dr. Vasquez," Chen called to the chief scientist, a woman whose brilliance had unlocked secrets the universe had hidden for billions of years. Dr. Elena Vasquez approached, her tablet showing equations that would revolutionize physics if any Council scientist could understand them. "Project Convergence is fully operational, Admiral. The quantum tunneling network is active across all former human territories. We can deploy our entire population to any point in the galaxy within minutes." Chen smiled grimly. The sealed underground facilities that had puzzled the scavengers were not ritual sites or summoning circles. They were gateway stations, each one a node in a transportation network that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Humanity had not just abandoned their worlds. They had converted them into strategic assets. And our population centers? Hidden in parallel dimensions, Admiral. 7 billion humans living in constructed realities that exist adjacent to normal space. The Council sensors cannot detect them because they are not looking in the right dimensions. It had been humanity's greatest achievement and their greatest sacrifice. To become invisible to the Council, they had voluntarily exiled themselves from the physical universe, maintaining only minimal presence to keep up appearances. For 20 years, the vast majority of humanity had lived as refugees in their own artificial realities. But now it was time to come home. "Dr. Kim," Chen called to the bioweapons specialist, "report on the targeting protocols." Dr. James Kim's face was grim as he consulted his research notes. "The Council's biological weaknesses have been thoroughly catalogued, Admiral. Our targeted viral agents will shut down their immune systems within hours of deployment. Non-lethal but completely incapacitating. We can neutralize entire worlds without firing a shot." Chen nodded. Humanity had always been better at biology than the Council realized. While other species pursued mechanical and energy-based technologies, humans had unlocked the secrets of life itself. Every Council species had been studied in detail. Their genetic weaknesses mapped. Their biological systems understood better than they understood them themselves. "Captain Park," Chen continued, turning to the psychological warfare specialist. Captain Lisa Park stepped forward, her expression carrying the cold calculation of someone who had weaponized empathy itself. "The terror protocols are ready for deployment, Admiral. We have studied every Council species for decades. Their fears, their cultural taboos, their psychological breaking points. The broadcasts are designed to shatter their morale before the first ship appears." Chen turned back to the stars. Fear was humanity's oldest weapon, refined over millions of years of evolution. While the Council relied on technological superiority, humans understood something more fundamental. The mind was the ultimate battlefield. And our manufacturing capabilities? "Exceeding all projections," reported Chief Engineer David Walsh from his station. "The automated shipyards in the parallel dimensions have been running continuously for 15 years. We are producing vessels at a rate that surpasses the combined industrial output of the entire Council." It was true. Hidden in their artificial realities, humanity had built an industrial base that could have conquered galaxies. Automated factories that never tired. Resource extraction that violated no environmental laws because it occurred in constructed dimensions. Manufacturing capabilities that would seem like magic to any Council observer. "Admiral," Commander Torres said quietly, "we're receiving reports from our observation posts. The Council appears to be mobilizing their fleets." Chen nodded. She had expected this. The Council was not entirely stupid, merely arrogant. They would recognize the threat eventually and respond with force. It would not save them. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. Throughout the fleet, orders were transmitted with technologies that operated faster than light itself. Ships that had been waiting in the darkness for decades began to move, not toward Council space, but toward positions the Council could not imagine. and would not detect until it was far too late. Dr. Vasquez, Chen continued, activate the dimensional gates. It's time to bring our people home. The scientist's fingers danced across her control interface, sending commands through quantum tunnels to gateway stations across former human space. Deep underground in facilities the Council had dismissed as destroyed, ancient machinery hummed to life. Reality began to bend across dozens of worlds. The air shimmered as tears opened in the fabric of space-time. Through these portals stepped millions of humans, returning to the physical universe after 20 years of exile. They moved with the efficiency of people who had trained for this moment their entire lives. They were not the same humans the Council remembered. Decades of genetic optimization had made them stronger, faster, more intelligent. Their technology was seamlessly integrated with their biology. Their minds were networked in ways that allowed perfect coordination across galactic distances. They were still human. But they were human perfected. Population transfer complete, Dr. Vasquez reported. 7 billion humans have returned to normal space-time. All gateway stations are operational. Chen watched the tactical display as red dots appeared across the galaxy, marking human positions that the Council did not know existed. In minutes, humanity had gone from extinct to omnipresent. Captain Park begins psychological operations. Across Council space, communication networks that had been infiltrated years earlier activated. Every screen, every speaker, every information system began broadcasting the same message simultaneously. It was not words, but something deeper. Sounds and images that spoke directly to the primitive fear centers of non-human brains. The message was simple. You are being watched. You have always been watched. And the Watchers are coming. Dr. Kim, deploy the biological agents. Throughout Council territory, automated systems that had been dormant for decades released their payloads. Viruses tailored to each species began spreading through air and water systems. Within hours, the first cases would appear. Weakness, confusion. The gradual shutdown of immune systems that had never encountered Earth-based pathogens, not deadly. Humanity was not seeking genocide, but incapacitating enough to eliminate any possibility of effective resistance. Admiral, Torres reported, we're receiving surrender broadcasts from 3 Council worlds already. The psychological operations are exceeding expectations. Chen was not surprised. Fear was contagious, especially when it was precisely targeted. The Council had spent so long believing in their own superiority that they had never developed emotional defenses against terror itself. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Begin final approach to Council space. It's time to remind the galaxy what happens when you mistake human patience for human weakness. As the greatest armada in galactic history began its movement toward the heart of Council civilization, Admiral Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had not sought this war. They had tried diplomacy, trade, peaceful coexistence. The Council had responded with contempt and dismissal, so humanity had done what humans do best. They had adapted, evolved, become something their enemies could not understand or defeat. The Council had thought them gone. They were about to discover that humanity had never left. They had simply been preparing to return stronger than anyone could imagine. The age of human dominance was about to begin. The emergency alarms aboard Nexus Prime Station screamed like dying animals as Ambassador Zekthar stumbled into the Council chamber. His usually pristine scales were dull with terror, and his yellow eyes darted frantically between the shadows. Around the massive holographic display, the surviving Council members gathered in various states of panic and disbelief. Report, Chairman Veltar demanded, his gaseous form roiling with agitation inside his environmental suit. Zekthar could barely speak. His forked tongue flicked out rapidly, tasting the fear that filled the air like poison. They're everywhere, he gasped. Every major world, every fleet position, every installation. They're all under attack, but it's not what we expected. The holographic display activated, showing real-time feeds from across Council space. But instead of the massive space battles they had prepared for, the scene showed something far more disturbing. Council citizens stumbled through their cities, their immune systems failing, their technology mysteriously shutting down. Ships drifted powerless in space as their crews struggled with sudden illness. The Ceridian homeworld, Zekthar continued, his voice breaking. Our planetary defense grid simply turned off. Their ships appeared in our atmosphere like ghosts. No one saw them coming. No weapons fired. They just appeared. The Hive Queen Zach's mandibles clicked frantically as she processed data from her own territories. My drones report the same across all collective worlds. The humans are not trying to destroy us. They are demonstrating that they could destroy us at any moment. It is psychological warfare on a scale we never imagined possible. Ambassador Reflon's aquatic chamber bubbled violently as he swam in panicked circles. Our deep space monitors show the truth. There are millions of human ships, millions! They have been building a secret civilization for decades. While we thought them primitive, they were becoming something beyond our comprehension. The display shifted to show long-range sensor data that made the Council's blood run cold. Human ships filled the space around every major Council world. They had appeared simultaneously across the galaxy, as if materializing from nowhere. The coordination required for such an operation was impossible, according to every law of physics the Council understood. But the humans had clearly found ways around those laws. "How many casualties?" asked the delegate from the Christek Confederacy, her silicon form flickering with nervous energy. "None," Zekthar replied. And somehow this was more terrifying than any casualty report could have been. "They are not killing us. They are making us helpless. Every world reports the same thing. Widespread illness that leaves people alive but unable to function. Technology failures that cripple our infrastructure without destroying it. Fear so intense that our military forces are surrendering without engaging." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans were not seeking to destroy the Council. They were seeking to replace it. And they were demonstrating that they had the power to do so whenever they chose. "Incoming transmission," announced the station's AI, its voice somehow managing to sound apologetic. "From whom?" Feltar demanded. "The transmission is being broadcast simultaneously on every frequency across the galaxy. Source unknown. The signal is penetrating all our security systems." The display cleared, and for the first time in over a year, the Council saw a human face. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared before them, her expression carrying the calm certainty of absolute victory. Behind her, the bridge of her ship showed technology so advanced it seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Greetings, Council," she said, her voice soft, but carrying the weight of stellar masses. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force. I believe there has been a misunderstanding. You thought we disappeared. You thought we ran away in fear. You were wrong." Sekthar found his voice. "What? What do you want?" Admiral Chen's smile was gentle, terrible, and utterly without mercy. "We want you to understand something you should have learned long ago. Humanity doesn't retreat. We don't disappear. We prepare. And when we're ready, we return to claim what was always ours, what was always yours," sputtered the Hive Queen. "You were a primitive species barely capable of interstellar travel." "Were we?" Chen asked mildly. "Or did we simply allow you to believe that? Tell me, Honored Council, when was the last time any of your species developed new technology? When was the last time you faced a real challenge? When was the last time you had to evolve?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. The truth was that the Council species had grown stagnant, relying on ancient technologies and established dominance. They had become so focused on maintaining their superiority that they had stopped growing. "For 20 years, Chen continued, "we have watched you, studied you, learned everything about your biology, your psychology, your weaknesses. You believed yourselves untouchable because you had never faced an enemy that could match your technology. But you made a critical error." "What error?" Feltar whispered. "You confused technology with intelligence. You mistook age for wisdom. You assumed that because you had ruled for millennia, you always would. But evolution doesn't care about your assumptions." The image zoomed out to show the full scope of what humanity had become. The ships surrounding Earth numbered in the millions. Orbital installations dwarfed anything in Council space, and around it all moved fleets that could sweep across the galaxy like a tsunami of steel and energy. "This is impossible," breathed the Christek delegate. "No species could hide an industrial base of this magnitude." "No Council species could," Chen agreed. "But we are not a Council species. We think differently. We build differently. We exist differently. While you expanded through normal space, we learned to build in parallel dimensions. While you relied on physical resources, we learned to manufacture matter itself. While you studied ancient sciences, we discovered new ones." The display shifted again, showing images that defied understanding, human ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, manufacturing facilities that seemed to violate the laws of physics, humans themselves, enhanced and evolved beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. "You are still human?" asked Commander Thak, his ursine features showing confusion. "We are what humanity becomes when it stops accepting limitations," Chen replied. "When it stops believing that others are inherently superior. When it decides to reach for godhood instead of settling for servitude." "What do you intend to do with us?" Zekthar asked, though he already feared the answer. Chen's expression softened slightly, showing the first hint of the mercy that separated humanity from its enemies. "We intend to give you a choice. You can accept a new order in this galaxy, one where all species are judged by their contributions rather than their age. Or you can continue to resist and discover what happens when an unstoppable force meets a council that was never truly immovable. And if we resist, then you will learn why we spent 20 years preparing instead of just 10. Chen's smile returned, cold and absolute. "We have weapons you cannot imagine, technologies you cannot comprehend, and patience you cannot match. We could have conquered you at any time in the past 5 years. We waited because we hoped you would choose wisdom over pride." The transmission flickered, and for a moment the Council saw the true scope of human power, ships beyond counting, technologies beyond understanding, a species that had transcended every limitation the galaxy had tried to place upon it. "Consider your choice carefully," Admiral Chen concluded. "But do not take too long. We have been patient for 20 years. Our patience is not infinite." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in absolute silence. Outside their crystal walls, the stars no longer seemed empty. They were full of watching eyes and hidden fleets in a species that had just announced its supremacy over everything they had believed about the natural order. Slowly, reluctantly, the Council began to discuss terms of surrender. They were no longer the rulers of the galaxy. That age had ended the moment humanity decided to stop playing by rules written by others. In the darkness between stars, Admiral Chen watched their deliberations with satisfaction. The galaxy would be different now. Better. Humanity had returned not as conquerors but as gardeners, ready to cultivate a civilization worthy of the cosmos itself. The age of stagnation was over. The age of evolution had begun, and somewhere in the depths of space 7 billion humans smiled as they prepared to inherit the stars.